Hello everyone, my name is Estelle Meaux. I'm a PhD student from Guangxi University in China, and today I'm going to present you a project about the influence of audience effect and vegetation effect on the contact call production in a group living bird. So why is it important for some animals to really stay in a social group? Well, it's mostly known to be an anti-predator strategy due to multiple effects, such as, for example, the dilution effect. And for keeping the group cohesive, some animals use the contact call production. So this vocalization, it's a very simple and soft call, which is species specific. And the particular nature of the contact call is that it's repeated by the group in a continuous way, specifically during the foraging time. And so it has been shown that it is used for the group members to stay together, and also it's been used for coordination during the group movement. And it has also been shown to allow for individual recognition, for example, for the mate, the kingship, but also for the group membership. And so in this project, we are specifically interested in whether the rate of contact calls can encode for some information, and what external factors can influence the contact call production, and specifically whether there is a social and or environmental influence on this frequency of production. So we have those two main hypotheses, environmental influence and the social influence. So to test for the environmental part, we will mainly make some experiments about the vegetation effect. And about the social influence, we will test for the group size effect, but also the group composition with the audience effect experiment. So for this, we observed the swinhouse white-eyes, which is a passerine bird that live in large flocks of individuals. It can be found in very different types of habitats, and in Southeast Asia, it is very known to be cage birds, and so that's why it is important for us, because it is famous to quickly adapt to captive environments, which we have been done during this project. This bird also lives in the canopy, therefore their escape strategy tends to be cover dependent. So we built an aviary in the campus of Guangxi University, and in this aviary we tested 10 different groups of 7 to 8 birds, so one group at a time. So first we were capturing individuals. We tried to capture individuals from the same social group. Then this group was going through a pre-experimental period of about 1 week, during which, of course, individuals were getting used to the captivity conditions, but also during which we scored the group social characteristics with the hierarchy and the affiliation between individuals. And of course, we were also recording their basic vocal behavior. And after this pre-experimental period, we tested the groups through 2 different experiments, so the vegetation and the audience experiments. And finally, the groups were released at the capture site. So when we were recording the pilot groups, we found that the species had 3 different types of contact calls, so defined as repeated vocalizations during foraging time. So on this spectrogram, you can see first there is a flight call, which is a series of similar notes that is specifically produced during a flight, a movement within the aviary. Then you have the most common one, which is a short distance call. Here it's 3 exemplars of this quite soft vocalization. And finally, the individuals were producing some long distance calls, which is a contact call of longer duration than the other ones, and also higher amplitude. So we made a linear discriminant analysis that correctly classified almost 98% of the call. And of course, because there are different types of contact calls, we will try to see whether each type would be influenced in different ways by either the vegetation or the social environment. So first, the environmental effect. So we tested the vegetation density, of course, with a high density against a low density. And so we had different predictions for this experiment. So first, we know that the contact call inform on the spatial position of each group member. So we can expect that when there is a high vegetation density, there will be more contact calls produced by the individuals because of the visual obstruction, so that they can keep in touch with each other. And on the contrary, when there is a low vegetation density, there is a higher predation risk for this species. And so we can expect the individuals to then decrease their calling production so that they won't attract the attention of nearby predators. However, we have another prediction, is that the birds might use a strategy of adaptive silence. So this strategy is abrupt cessation of all vocalization. That is a signal for danger. And if it is the case, then we can expect a higher predation risk due to the low density vegetation to actually increase the contact call, so that the basic level of call rate is quite high, and a potential silence might be a real obvious signal. So to know which of these predictions could be the correct one, we tested the vegetation density high and low by introducing some artificial bamboos inside the aviary to create two levels of density. Then after putting this artificial vegetation, we were waiting a little bit before recording the groups, and we made a total of 5 recordings every 10 minutes, and the total length of the recording were 2 minutes. And we made for each group 3 trials for high density and 3 trials for low density. So for the results, we made different regression models for all the different contact call types, and we never found the vegetation density to be an important variable in those regression models. So we concluded here that the vegetation apparently doesn't affect the contact call rate, which is a result that has also been found in this same species when we were doing some field studies. So we were now interested in whether there is a social influence on this contact call production. So here we tested the group size and also the group composition. So for the group composition, we know that the contact call allow for individual recognition, and that the production of acoustic signal may depend on the receiver presence. That's the definition of the audience effect. And so we expect that the contact call might increase when the birds are with closely affiliated individuals. And concerning the group size, well, we are going back to this hypothesis of adaptive silence with call cessation that indicates there is a danger nearby. And according to this hypothesis, we would expect that the contact call would increase when the birds would get lower in the group size to keep a constant group level rate. So to test this hypothesis, we artificially created inside the aviary subgroup size of 1, 2, and 4 individuals, of course compared to the complete group of 8 birds. And each of the subgroup had their social characteristics scored during the pre-experimental period. So we were mainly interested in the affiliation index between pairs of individuals. So it's simply the time spent as close neighbors to each other. And we also, of course, established the social hierarchy of each group, and each individual had a dominance index. We used for this the normalized David score. So here are the results for from the GLMMs that have been done on the 3 different types of contact calls. So on the plots, first you can see the short distance call with a real decrease in production of this type of contact call when the bird is all alone in the aviary, and an increase when the bird is with another mate, another group member. For the flight call, it's very low when the bird is alone or with only 1 or 3 other group members, but there is a real increase when the group is complete with 8 individuals. And for the long distance call, it's a reverse pattern. There is much more production done by a solitary bird compared to when the group is larger. And on this table, you have the results of the models that have been done comparing a subgroup size of 2 and 4 birds to compare social characteristics. So you have the rank distance, which is the distance in the social hierarchy, and the affiliation, so the time spent as close neighbors between a pair of birds. And so you can see that for each type of contact calls, rank distance is important and has a negative effect, which means that the higher the rank distance is between the birds, the less call is produced. And for the affiliation, you also have an effect for the short distance and flight call, which is a positive effect. So the more affiliated the birds are, the more flight and short distance calls will be produced. So we have seen that the more the birds get more vocal with socially close individuals. And for the short distance calls, we assume that the role of this vocalization is to establish a communication within the group, so between group members. The solitary birds makes more long distance calls, and we assume here that the long distance calls then is used for communication with distant mates. However, I didn't have take time to also show that the presence of wide conspecifics increase the production of long distance call of the subjects, and so we also might suggest that the long distance call might be used for intergroup communication. And about the flight call, it's mostly associated to the bird's activity that we were also scoring. I just didn't show in the table. So the conclusion is that the social environment has a real influence on the production of contact call. And we showed that the contact call, even though it's a very simple kind of vocalization for animal groups, yet it is more socially influenced than environmentally influenced. And we also shown that there is different types of contact call, and they are all influenced in a different way by the social context. And so we might suggest that the contact calls might inform third parties about the social relationship between group members. So that is related with the eavesdropping behavior. And also we will test later on the recruitment function of the contact call. And for this, we will specifically make some food discovering experiment and see whether the birds will use the contact call as a recruitment or not. So these are the references I used for this presentation. And so I would like to thank my supervisors, the Professor Eben Goodale, as well as my 2 research assistants that helped me a lot during this experiment, Chao and Ruchuan. And of course, I thank you for your attention.